Have you ever been so cold you stopped feeling your fingers, so hungry you stopped feeling human, and then someone looked at you like you mattered? That's what happened to Lily Hart on the worst night of her life. 20 years old, and she was dying on a stranger's doorstep in East Harbor. Snow fell heavy and merciless, burying her thin jacket, her empty stomach, her will to keep running. The men hunting her were 3 blocks away, maybe less. She'd heard their voices in the alley behind the grocery store, seen their flashlights cutting through the darkness. So she ran until her legs gave out, until the only shelter she could find was the concrete steps of a bar called Grant's. She collapsed there, shaking so hard her teeth rattled. Her vision blurred. Somewhere above her, a door opened. Heavy footsteps, then voices, deep, male, threatening. "Boss, there's a street kid on the steps. Want me to move her?" Lily tried to curl smaller, tried to disappear. This was it. They'd throw her back into the snow, and the hunters would find her before morning. But then a different voice cut through the cold. Controlled, quiet, dangerous. "She's just a girl." Lily forced her eyes open. Through the falling snow, she saw him, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark suit that screamed money and power. His face was all hard angles and sharper edges, but his eyes weren't cruel. He crouched beside her, and warmth enveloped her shoulders. A coat, his coat, heavy wool that smelled like expensive cologne and cigarette smoke. "Bring her inside," he said. Not a request, a command. Strong hands lifted her gently. The world tilted. The last thing Lily registered before darkness claimed her was a thought that made no sense. Maybe I'm not alone anymore. Inside Grant's bar, Alexander Grant stood at the window, watching his bodyguards carry the unconscious girl through the back entrance. His jaw clenched so hard it ached. He knew those marks on her wrists, rope burns fresh and angry. He knew that look of terror even in unconsciousness. He'd seen it all before, 15 years ago, on his sister's body. Mason Clark appeared beside him. "Boss, we don't know anything about her. Could be trouble." "She is trouble." Alexander's voice was ice. "The kind I've spent 15 years trying to eliminate from my territory." "Then why?" "Because this time I'm not too late." He turned away from the window. "Find out who's hunting her. I want names, locations, and connections by morning." Mason hesitated. "You're sure about this?" Alexander thought about Elena, about the silver necklace he still carried, about all the girls he couldn't save because he'd been too young, too weak, too late. "I'm sure," he said quietly. "Get Ruby. The girl needs medical attention." As Mason left, Alexander returned to the window, watching snow blanket the harbor. Somewhere out there, predators were hunting. But tonight, they'd lost their prey. Tonight, Alexander Grant had drawn a line they'd regret crossing. Morning light filtered weak and gray through the storage room window. Lily woke to warmth, real warmth, not the phantom heat that comes before hypothermia. She was lying on a sofa under thick blankets. The smell of coffee drifted from somewhere nearby. She jerked upright, heart hammering. "Where?" "Easy, honey." A woman's voice, gentle and steady. "You're okay?" Lily's eyes focused on the bartender, sitting in a chair nearby. Mid-20s, kind face, holding a steaming mug. Ruby, her name tag read. "Where am I?" Lily's throat was raw. "Grant's Bar, East Harbor." Ruby set down her coffee and moved closer, slowly, like approaching a frightened animal. You collapsed on our steps last night. The boss brought you in before you froze to death. The boss. Lily's stomach dropped. I need to leave. I can't. They'll find me here. Who's they? The door opened and Alexander stepped inside. In daylight, he looked even more imposing. Steel gray eyes that missed nothing. Expensive clothes that fit like armor. Lily pressed back against the sofa. Every instinct screamed danger. Men with power had never meant anything good in her life. But he didn't come closer. He simply leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, and waited. Lily's voice faltered. I don't know their real names. Then tell me what you do know. His tone wasn't harsh, just matter of fact, like they were discussing weather instead of whatever hell she was running from. Ruby touched Lily's hand gently. It's okay. Whatever you tell us stays here. Lily looked down at her hands. The rope burns on her wrists had been cleaned and bandaged. Someone, Ruby probably, had cared for her while she slept. The simple kindness of it made her throat tight. There was a shelter, she began quietly. Haven House, near the port. They said it was for young women in crisis. No family, no home, no one looking for them. She forced herself to meet Alexander's eyes. That's how they chose us, girls who wouldn't be missed. Something flickered in Alexander's expression. Ruby's hand tightened on hers. How long were you there? Alexander's voice was carefully controlled. 2 weeks, long enough to realize it wasn't really a shelter. Lily's hands trembled. Another girl warned me the night before they were supposed to move me somewhere. She started a fire as a distraction. I went out a window and ran. When was this? 5 days ago. I've been hiding since then, but yesterday I saw one of them at the bus station. That's when I knew they were still looking. Alexander pulled his phone from his pocket, typing rapidly. Mason, run Haven House. I want ownership records, employee lists, and any connection to trafficking operations. Do it quietly. He pocketed the phone and looked at Lily again. The men hunting you, how many? I don't know, at least 3, maybe more. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have stopped here. I'll go. You're not going anywhere. The words were flat, final. Not until we know who they are and what they want. But I'll bring trouble. The trouble's already here. He moved to the window, looking out at the harbor. It's been here for 15 years. Before Lily could ask what he meant, Mason appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. He handed Alexander a tablet. Whatever was on the screen made Alexander's jaw tighten. Victor Mallory, he said quietly. The shelter's a front. 3 others like it across the city, all feeding into his trafficking network. The name meant nothing to Lily, but Ruby went pale. Boss, if Mallory's involved, then we handle it. Alexander's voice dropped to something dangerous. Same way I should have handled it 15 years ago. He turned back to Lily. You'll stay here until we sort this out. Ruby will get you food and clean clothes. Don't leave this room, and don't go near the windows, understood? Who are you? The question burst out. Why are you helping me? For a long moment, Alexander just looked at her. Then he pulled something from his pocket, a small silver necklace with a teardrop pendant. He held it up to the light, and Lily saw how worn it was, how carefully kept. 15 years ago, my sister Elena was 17. She helped kids who'd aged out of foster care find jobs and housing. One night, she didn't come home. His voice stayed level, but his fingers tightened around the necklace. Mallory's operation took her. By the time we found her, it was too late. Understanding crashed over Lily like cold water. I'm sorry. I was 22, not powerful enough to stop it, not smart enough to see it coming. He pocketed the necklace. I won't make that mistake twice. He left before she could respond. Ruby squeezed her hand once, then followed, locking the door softly. Alone, Lily pulled the blankets around herself and tried to process what she'd just learned. The man who'd saved her wasn't some good Samaritan. He was someone with his own ghosts, his own reasons for protecting her. Does it matter why, as long as I'm alive? She didn't know the answer yet. Sometimes angels have dark wings. Sometimes the people who save us carry their own scars. If this story is pulling at your heart, let me know in the comments and consider subscribing. Lily's journey is just beginning. That afternoon, Lily sat cross-legged on the storage room sofa, wrapped in blankets that still smelled faintly of cedar and safety. Ruby had brought her soup, actual homemade soup with vegetables and chunks of tender chicken. And Lily had eaten every drop like it was the first real meal she'd had in months. Because it was. Through the thin walls, she could hear the bar coming to life. Voices, laughter, the clink of glasses, normal sounds, human sounds. For 5 days, she'd hidden in alleys and abandoned buildings, listening only to sirens and footsteps and her own ragged breathing. The normalcy of Grant's bar felt almost alien. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "It's Ruby. Can I come in?" "Yes." Ruby entered carrying a stack of folded clothes and what looked like toiletries. "Thought you might want a shower. There's a bathroom down the hall. Clean towels, hot water, take as long as you need." She set everything on the coffee table. The clothes might be a bit big, but they're clean and warm. Lily touched the soft fabric of a hoodie. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Ruby settled into the chair, her expression thoughtful. "You want the honest answer? Please?" "Because the boss asked me to, and when Alexander Grant asks for something, it's usually because it matters." She paused, "But also because I see myself in you. 5 years ago, I was where you are now. Different circumstances, same desperation." Lily looked up sharply. "You were homeless?" "Yeah. Aged out of foster care at 18 with nowhere to go and no one who cared." Ruby's smile was sad but genuine. "I was sleeping in a park when Alexander found me. He gave me a job, a place to stay, and a chance to rebuild. I've been here ever since. He saves people. It wasn't a question. He tries to, doesn't always succeed. That eats at him more than he lets on. But when he can..." Ruby leaned forward. "Look, I'm not going to pretend Alexander's a saint. He runs this territory with an iron fist, and he's done things that would keep you up at night. But he also has lines he won't cross, and people he won't let fall through the cracks. People like me. People like us." Ruby stood, moving toward the door. "Take that shower. I'll be back in an hour with dinner. And Lily?" She paused in the doorway. "You're safe here, really safe. Whatever demons you're running from, they can't reach you past Alexander's walls." After Ruby left, Lily gathered the clothes and toiletries with trembling hands. A shower. When was the last time she'd had a real shower? Not a desperate wash in a gas station bathroom, but an actual shower with hot water and clean towels and time to feel human again. The bathroom was small but immaculate. Lily locked the door and stood under the spray until her skin turned pink, washing away days of grime and fear. She used the shampoo. something expensive that smelled like vanilla and honey, and watched dirty water circle the drain. When she finally emerged, dressed in clothes that hung loose but felt like heaven, she caught her reflection in the mirror. The girl staring back looked different. Cleaner, yes, but also younger, more vulnerable. Without the armor of dirt and exhaustion, she just looked like what she was. A scared 20-year-old who'd run out of places to hide. She touched the bandages on her wrists. Beneath them, the rope burns still ached. A reminder that Haven House hadn't been a nightmare. It had been real, and somewhere out there, men were still hunting her. A sound from the hallway made her freeze. Footsteps, heavy, male, moving past the bathroom door. Her heart hammered. She pressed against the wall, barely breathing, every muscle tensed to run. "Ruby, is she—" Alexander's voice muffled through the door. "Never mind, I'll check later." The footsteps retreated. Lily sagged against the sink, shaking. "He was just checking on you. He's protecting you. You're safe." But safe was a word that had lost all meaning 5 days ago. She returned to the storage room and found a tray waiting. More soup, fresh bread, and a note in neat handwriting. "Take your time. Rest. You've earned it." Our Lily ate slowly, savoring every bite, and tried to remember what it felt like to be full, to be warm, to be somewhere that wasn't actively trying to hurt her. Through the walls, she heard Alexander's voice, giving orders, handling business, running his territory. His tone was always controlled, measured, dangerous in its quietness. This was a man people obeyed without question. What kind of man saves a stranger but commands fear from everyone else? She didn't have an answer. But as evening shadows lengthened and exhaustion pulled at her, Lily found herself thinking that maybe, just maybe, she didn't need to understand him yet. Maybe it was enough that he'd pulled her from the snow and given her somewhere warm to sleep. For now, that was more than anyone else had done. 3 days passed in careful routine. Ruby brought meals that Lily actually finished. Soup, bread, fruit that tasted like luxury after months of scraps. She brought clothes too, jeans that fit, a soft sweater, socks that made Lily cry because she'd forgotten what clean socks felt like. Alexander came by once each evening, never stayed long, just checked on her, asked if she needed anything, then left. Like he was giving her space to adjust to captivity that didn't feel like captivity. On the 4th night, everything changed. Lily was reading one of Ruby's donated paperbacks when shouting erupted from the bar below. Male voices, angry and escalating. She froze, book forgotten, as heavy footsteps pounded up the stairs. The storage room door flew open. Mason stood there, breathing hard. "We need to move you, now." "What's happening?" Mallory's men, 2 of them watching the bar, asking questions. He grabbed a jacket from the hook. "Boss wants you in the safe house before they confirm you're here." Fear spiked through her. "How did they find me?" "Doesn't matter right now. Come on." Mason led her down a back staircase she hadn't known existed, into an alley where a black SUV waited, engine running. He pushed her into the back seat just as Alexander appeared from the bar's rear exit. But he didn't get in the car. Instead, he walked straight toward 2 men standing at the alley entrance. "Alexander, no," Mason started. "Get her to the safe house. I'll handle this." Alexander's voice was cold steel. Through the tinted window, Lily watched him approach the men with the casual confidence of someone who owned the very ground they stood on. One of them reached for something in his jacket. Alexander caught his wrist, twisting it back with surgical precision. The man gasped. Alexander leaned close, speaking too quietly for Lily to hear. But whatever he said drained the color from both men's faces. "Tell Mallory she's under my protection now," Alexander said, loud enough to carry. "He wants her. He goes through me first." The men backed away, stumbling over themselves to leave. Alexander watched them disappear around the corner, then turned back to the SUV. When his eyes met Lily's through the window, she saw something that terrified and comforted her in equal measure. Absolute certainty. Like he'd just declared war and already knew how it would end. He climbed into the passenger seat. "Drive." The SUV pulled away smoothly. Lily sat frozen in the back, her mind racing. What did you say to them?" "The truth." Alexander didn't turn around. "That you're mine to protect now, and in this territory, my word is law." "But you don't even know me." "I know enough." His voice softened fractionally. "You're someone who helped another girl escape, even though it put you at risk. You're someone who ran for days and still chose kindness over bitterness. That's all I need to know." Lily's throat closed. "You called me yours." "Figure of speech. You're not property, Lily. You're under my protection. There's a difference." "What difference?" "Property has no choice." He finally turned to look at her, his gray eyes steady. "You always have a choice. Stay or leave. Trust me or don't. I'll protect you either way, but the choice is yours." Something in Lily's chest cracked open. A place that had been frozen for so long, she'd forgotten it existed. "What if I choose to stay?" "Then I'll make sure you never regret it." The SUV carried them through darkening streets toward the harbor high-rises. Lily watched the city lights blur past and felt, for the first time in months, something that might have been hope. Dangerous, fragile, terrifying hope. The safe house was nothing like Lily expected. She'd imagined something industrial and cold. Instead, Mason led her to a 10th-floor apartment filled with soft morning light. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor, clean white walls, a kitchen stocked with real food. A bedroom with an actual bed, thick comforter, cloud-soft pillows. Lily stood in the center of the living room, afraid to touch anything. "You'll be protected here," Mason said, setting grocery bags on the counter. "No one knows about this place except the boss and me. There's a panic button by the bed if you need it." Red phone on the nightstand connects directly to him. "How long do I stay here?" "Until the boss says it's clear." Mason's expression softened slightly. "Ruby thought you might want these." He pulled out a stack of worn paperbacks, romance novels with hopeful endings. After Mason left, Lily explored slowly. Running hot water, fresh milk in the fridge, clean towels that smelled like lavender. Each small luxury felt like a gift she hadn't earned. She sat on the edge of the bed and let herself cry. Quiet, shaking sobs that came from somewhere deeper than fear. Relief, grief, the crushing weight of not having to run. When she woke hours later, twilight painted the harbor in purple and gold, and Alexander sat in the chair by the window, a silhouette against the dying light. Lily gasped. "How? It's my safe house." He stood slowly. "I wanted to make sure you had everything." He moved to the kitchen, filling a kettle, his movements precise and controlled. "You're wondering why I'm doing this?" It wasn't a question. Lily pulled a blanket around herself. "Yes." Do you know what I do, Lily? My real business. He found tea bags in the cabinet, set out 2 cups. I control East Harbor. Shipping, protection, territory. Some of it's legal, most isn't. The word hung unspoken between them. Mafia. Then why help me? Her voice was barely a whisper. Because there are lines even I don't cross. He poured hot water over the tea bags, steam rising between them. Mallory's operation, what he does to people who can't fight back, that crosses every line that matters. He brought her a cup, chamomile, soothing, and set it on the small table. Then he pulled out the silver necklace again, holding it up to the fading light. My sister wore this every day, said it made her feel brave. His voice roughened. You remind me of her. Not because of what happened, but because you're still kind after everything. That takes real strength. Lily stared at the necklace, her vision blurring. I don't feel strong. Survival is strength. He set the necklace on the table beside her tea. I want you to have this. I can't. It belonged to. I know. And she'd want someone like you to carry it forward. He moved toward the door. Get some rest. Tomorrow Mason will bring whatever else you need. You're protected here, Lily. What if Mallory finds me anyway? Alexander paused in the doorway, his profile sharp against the window light. Then I'll handle it, but he won't get past me. After he left, Lily sat in the darkening apartment, staring at the silver necklace. She didn't put it on, not yet, but she didn't push it away either. For the first time in her life, someone with power was using it to protect instead of control. Maybe that's what trust looks like, she thought, starting small. The first 3 days in the safe house passed like a dream Lily was afraid to wake from. She established small routines that felt revolutionary in their normalcy. Making coffee in the morning, real coffee, not the watered-down charity center kind. Standing at the window, watching boats move through the harbor, their paths purposeful and sure. Reading Ruby's romance novels, getting lost in stories where broken people found each other and chose to heal. On the 4th morning, Lily woke to find a package outside her door. No note, just a sturdy box with her name on it. Inside, art supplies, sketch pads, pencils, charcoal, watercolors. Things she hadn't touched since before her aunt died, back when drawing had been her escape from a world that didn't want her. Her hands trembled as she opened the sketch pad. The paper was thick, expensive, quality she'd never been able to afford. How did he know? But somehow Alexander had known. Maybe Ruby had mentioned it. Maybe he'd simply noticed the way Lily's fingers moved unconsciously, sketching invisible lines in the air when she thought no one was watching. She sat by the window and drew the harbor, the boats, the water, the skyline. Her hand moved across the page, rusty but remembering, and something in her chest loosened. This was hers. This small act of creation in a life that had been nothing but survival. When Alexander visited that evening, his routine check-in that never lasted more than 15 minutes, he noticed the sketches immediately. These are good. He picked up the harbor drawing, studying it with genuine interest. Really good. Lily felt heat climb her cheeks. It's been a while. I'm out of practice. Doesn't show. He set the drawing down carefully. You have talent, Lily, real talent. My aunt used to say I could make a living at it. Before she... Lily's throat closed. Before. Alexander sat down across from her, his usual careful distance maintained. What happened to her? Cancer, fast and brutal. She raised me after my parents died when I was 8, taught me to draw, to see beauty in broken things. Lily's fingers traced the edge of the sketch pad. When she got sick, I had to drop out of community college to care for her. By the time she died, I had nothing. No savings, no family, nowhere to go. The apartment was rented, and I couldn't keep up payments. That's when you ended up on the streets. Yeah. The word came out barely above a whisper. I tried staying with friends, but that only lasted a few weeks. Tried shelters, but they were always full or had waiting lists. Then I saw Haven House's flyer, and I thought... She laughed bitterly. I thought maybe someone was finally offering real help. They targeted you specifically because you had no one. Alexander's voice went cold. That's their pattern. Girls with no safety net, no one to report them missing. I'm not special, just unlucky. You're more than that. He leaned forward slightly. You're a survivor. You're someone who kept her humanity when the world tried to strip it away. That's rare, Lily. Don't diminish it. She met his eyes, those steel gray eyes that somehow managed to be both hard and gentle. Why do you care, really? I know about Elena, but there must be hundreds of girls in situations like mine. You can't save them all. No, but I can save you. Simple, final. And sometimes one person is enough to make the difference. Something shifted in the air between them. Not romance, not yet, but recognition. Two wounded people seeing each other clearly, scars and all. Thank you, Lily said quietly, for the art supplies, for this place, for not making me feel like a burden. You're not a burden. Alexander stood, moving toward the door. You're someone worth protecting. There's a difference. After he left, Lily returned to her sketching, but this time she drew faces. Elna from the photograph Alexander carried, Ruby's kind smile, Mason's serious expression, and Alexander, all sharp angles and careful control, with eyes that held too many ghosts. She didn't show him that one. 2 weeks in the safe house, and Lily almost forgot what fear tasted like. She established routines, cooked simple meals, read Ruby's romance novels, watched the harbor from the windows, tracking boats moving in and out like clockwork. Alexander visited twice, once to bring a laptop for job searching, once to simply sit and talk about books and weather and nothing important. It felt peaceful, normal. That should have been her first warning. On day 15, the building's fire alarm shrieked to life. Lily jerked awake, heart pounding. Smoke? She didn't smell smoke. But the alarm kept screaming, and outside her door, residents were shouting, moving toward the stairs. She grabbed her jacket and opened the door. Mason's guard was gone. Fear spiked cold through her veins. Where? A hand clamped over her mouth from behind. An arm locked around her waist, lifting her off the ground. She thrashed, tried to scream, but the hand pressed harder. Stop fighting. The voice in her ear was cold, familiar. You're coming with us. She bit down hard. The man swore, his grip loosening. She twisted free, ran 3 steps. Someone grabbed her hair, yanking her back. Pain exploded across her scalp. She screamed, fully and desperately. Then, screeching tires, a car door slamming. Alexander's voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Let her go, now. The hands released her instantly. Lily stumbled forward, catching herself against the wall. When she looked up, Alexander stood at the hallway entrance, flanked by Mason and 2 bodyguards. No weapons drawn, no threats visible. He didn't need them. The look on his face was weapon enough. "Get in the car, Lily." His voice stayed level, but underneath it was volcanic fury. "Move!" Lily's legs barely worked, but she ran to him. Mason caught her arm, steadying her, and guided her toward the stairwell. Behind her, she heard Alexander speak, too quiet to make out words, but one of her attackers went pale. In the car, Lily couldn't stop shaking. Her breath came in shallow gasps. The walls closed in. Alexander slid into the seat beside her, his hand covering both of hers. Warm, steady, real. "Breathe. You're protected. I've got you." "I'm sorry." The words choked out between gasps. "I didn't know the fire alarm." "The alarm was triggered remotely. They planned this." His voice went colder. "And they'll keep trying, but Lily..." He shifted to face her fully. "If you weren't there, they would have taken you, and I got there. I will always get there." "Do you understand?" Tears spilled over. "I don't know how to stop being afraid." "Then be afraid next to me. Simple, final, not alone anymore." The SUV carried them through the city, but not toward the safe house. Somewhere higher, quieter, more secure. "Where?" "My penthouse." Alexander's expression dared her to argue. "Mallory knows about the safe house now. You're staying where I can reach you in seconds, not minutes." "In your home?" "Yes, but no arguments." His hand tightened fractionally on hers. "Not this time." So she didn't argue. She just let herself be carried to safety, and wondered when exactly she'd started believing in it. Alexander's penthouse felt lived in ways the safe house hadn't. Dark wood floors, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves packed with worn volumes. A kitchen that showed signs of actual use. Through massive windows, the entire harbor spread out, like a kingdom painted in twilight. Lily stood trembling in the center of the living room, while Alexander disappeared into another room. He returned with a thick blanket and draped it over her shoulders. "Sit." Not an order, an invitation that felt like care. She sank onto the leather sofa. Alexander poured amber liquid into 2 glasses, but only pushed one toward her. "It'll help with the shock." Lily took the glass but didn't drink. Her hands shook too much. "I need to leave East Harbor. Go somewhere far away." "He'll find you." Alexander cut her off gently. "Mallory's network stretches across 3 states. Running just means you're alone when he catches up." "Then what do I do? Wait while you two destroy each other over me?" "This isn't about you anymore." His jaw tightened. "It's about something older. Something I should have finished 15 years ago." Lily pulled the blanket tighter. "Elena." She was 17, wanted to study social work, help kids aging out of the system. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. One of the kids she mentored was working for Mallory without knowing it. When the kid tried to leave, Mallory killed him, made it look like gang violence. Lily's throat closed. Elena went to the police, gave a statement. 2 days later, she disappeared. His hands curled into fists. "We found her at the old docks. Mallory wanted to send a message about witnesses. I'm so sorry." "I was 22, had money, connections, some power, but not enough." His eyes met hers, raw and old with pain. "I couldn't protect her, couldn't even get justice, because Mallory had half the Port Police in his pocket. So I spent 15 years making sure I'd never be powerless again." Lily understood suddenly why he'd looked at her with such terrible recognition. "I'm not her." "No, but you're the first person since Elena who's made me remember why I started this path." He crossed to the bookshelf, returning with a framed photo. Younger Alexander, beside a girl with bright eyes and a wide smile. Elena wore the silver necklace. She believed people could change, that even the worst situations could turn around if someone cared enough. I stopped believing that. But you? He trailed off, searching for words. You've been through hell, he continued quietly. Betrayed by every system meant to protect you, and you're still kind, still apologizing for taking up space, still choosing to trust despite everything. Tears slid down Lily's cheeks. I feel broken. Broken things can still be beautiful and stronger than people think. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Silence stretched between them, weighted with something neither could name. Then Lily spoke, her voice small but steady. Haven House advertised free housing for young women in crisis. I'd been on the streets 3 months after my aunt died. When I saw their flyer, it felt like hope. She twisted the blanket. The first week seemed normal. Then the questions got strange. Did I have family? Anyone who'd look for me? Any medical conditions? I didn't realize until I heard staff talking about inventory and shipment dates. Alexander's expression went deadly still. I tried to leave. They said I couldn't, not until my case review was complete. That's when I knew. Her voice shook. Another girl there, Maya, told me to run. She started a fire as a distraction. I went out a window and never looked back. Maya, Alexander repeated quietly. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. Mason, run the name Maya through missing persons, connected to Haven House. Do it now. He set the phone down. You did what you had to do. That's not something to be ashamed of. But what if she's still? Then we'll find her. Simple, certain. And we'll shut down every operation Mallory's running. I'm done playing cautious. Lily stared at him. You'd risk everything for girls you don't know? I'd do it for one girl I do know. His eyes held hers. You. The air between them shifted, charged. Lily's heart hammered for a different reason now. Not fear, but something far more dangerous. Why? Barely a whisper. Why do you care? Because when I look at you, I see every chance I missed to choose right over easy. Every compromise I made for power instead of principle. He leaned forward. And I see the possibility that maybe it's not too late. That maybe I can still be the man my sister believed I could be. I'm not your redemption. No, but you're my reason to try. Outside, harbor lights glittered like fallen stars. Lily spoke softly. I'm scared of you. I know, but I'm more scared without you. I know that too. He stood, moving to the window, silhouetted against the city glow. I won't lie to you, Lily. My world isn't safe or clean. People get hurt. I've hurt people. Staying near me means accepting darkness exists, even when I try to keep it away from you. I've lived on streets for months. I know darkness exists. Lily stood too, the blanket falling away. What I don't know is how to trust someone who has power over me. Everyone with power has used it to hurt me or control me. You have more power than anyone I've met. How do I know you won't? Because I'm asking, not taking. He turned to face her. Every choice you make, to stay or leave, to trust me or not, it's yours. If tomorrow you want to leave East Harbor, I'll give you money, new identity, and a clean start where Mallory will never find you. His jaw tightened. I'll hate it, but I'll do it, because you deserve the choice. Something cracked open in Lily's chest, a place frozen so long she'd forgotten it existed. What if I choose to stay? Then I'll protect you with everything I have, and I'll help you build whatever life you want. Not as my possession. He struggled with the words. As someone I care about. The weight of those words settled between them like snow, quiet, transforming. Lily crossed the space slowly, stopping just out of reach. I'm choosing to stay for now. Not forever, I can't promise forever, but for now. For now is enough. She picked up the silver necklace from the coffee table. Will you help me put it on? He moved behind her, his hands gentle as he fastened the chain. The pendant settled just below her collarbone, light but present. A promise, a protection, a memory made new. Thank you, she whispered. No, thank you. His voice came close to her ear. We're for trusting me even a little, for staying when you're scared, for being brave enough to believe people can be more than their worst choices. Lily turned. They stood close enough that she could see gray flecks in his eyes, the faint scar above his eyebrow, the way his jaw tightened when holding back emotion. I don't know what happens next, she said quietly. Neither do I. For once, Alexander looked uncertain, human. But whatever it is, we'll face it together, if you want. I want. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, so tender it made her throat ache. Then that's what we'll do. Mason's text came an hour later. Alexander read it, his expression darkening. What is it? Maya's alive. Relief flooded through her until he continued. In Mallory's custody, he moved her to the docks 3 days ago. The world tilted. No, she helped me escape. And we're getting her out. Steel in his voice. I'm calling every favor I have. We hit the docks tomorrow night. What if? No what ifs. He took her hand, grip firm and warm. This is what I do. This is what I'm good at, trust me. So she did. The plan was surgical. Alexander's team would create a distraction at the main dock entrance while Mason extracted Maya. Lily would stay at the penthouse with Ruby and 2 guards, protected, away from danger. That plan lasted 4 hours. At 9:47 p.m., every light in the building cut out. Not just the penthouse, the entire high-rise. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in eerie red. Ruby grabbed Lily's arm. Stay close. The guards appeared from the hallway, flashlights cutting through darkness. Power's out building-wide. We need to... Glass shattered in the kitchen. Both guards spun toward the sound. Ruby pushed Lily toward the door. Something hard slammed into Lily's temple. Stars exploded across her vision. She stumbled, whirled, tilting. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard Ruby scream, heard the guards shout. Then a cloth pressed over her nose and mouth. Chemical sweetness. Her lungs burned. She tried to fight, but her limbs went heavy, uncooperative. Sleep tight, princess. A voice she didn't recognize. Boss wants you awake, but we can't have you screaming. Darkness swallowed her whole. When Lily woke, cold metal pressed against her spine. Her head pounded. Nausea rolled through her stomach. She tried to move, but her hands were bound behind her back. She forced her eyes open. Darkness, complete and suffocating. The smell of rust and salt water. The sound of distant waves. A shipping container. She was in a shipping container at the docks. Panic clawed up her throat. She jerked against the bindings, but they held firm. The walls pressed in, no light, barely any air. She was going to die here, alone in the dark. No. She forced herself to breathe. Think. Stay calm. Alexander will come. But would he? How would he even know where to look? Mallory had planned this perfectly. The power outage, the timing, everything designed to separate her from protection. Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them back. Crying wouldn't help. She needed to think. Her fingers found something in her back pocket. Her phone. No, they'd have taken that. But there was something hard, rectangular. She twisted, working it free. A lighter, the one Mason had given her weeks ago. Just in case, he'd said. Lily flicked it on. The small flame pushed back darkness just enough to see. The container was mostly empty. Some rope, a few crates, water stains on the floor, and up in the corner, high near the ceiling, a security camera. Blinking red. Someone was watching. An idea formed. Risky, maybe foolish, but all she had. She held the lighter up to the camera, waving it slowly back and forth. Morse code maybe, or just a signal. A beacon saying, "I'm here. Come find me." She conserved the lighter fluid, clicking it off, then settled back against the wall, Elena's necklace cold against her skin, and whispered into the darkness, "Alexander, I'm waiting." Alexander's phone buzzed at 10:32 p.m. Mason's voice was tight with urgency. "Boss, power outage at your building. Ruby's hurt, not critical, but guards are down. Lily's gone." The world stopped, then exploded into motion. Trace every camera in a 5-block radius. Alexander was already moving. Pull traffic feeds, security footage, anything. Find that power outage's source. Already on it, boss. Mason hesitated. Ruby said they came through the kitchen window. Professional job. No witnesses except her, and they knocked her out. This was Mallory. How long? 27 minutes since the outage. Too long. Alexander's hands tightened until his knuckles went white. "Get everyone. I don't care where they are. We're hitting the docks." If Mallory's waiting with full crew, then I go through them. Alexander's voice dropped to something deadly. Every single one. He made calls while driving. Port police, harbor security, every favor, every connection, every piece of leverage accumulated over 15 years. By the time he reached the staging point, he had a small army. But he went to the docks alone. "You're not serious." Mason stared. "Boss, I won't start a war with Lily in the middle." Alexander checked his weapon, then deliberately left it in the car. "I go in clean. If Mallory wants to talk, we talk. If he wants blood." He didn't finish. "And if it's a trap? Then you get Lily out." Alexander's expression was granite. "That's an order. No matter what happens to me, you get her somewhere protected. Clear?" Mason's jaw worked. "Clear." Alexander walked into the old docks at 11:04 p.m. Rain had started, cold and steady, turning broken pavement slick. Shipping containers loomed like tombstones. The air smelled of rust and salt and coming violence. He found Mallory standing between container rows, flanked by armed men, all watching Alexander approach with predatory patience. "Alexander Grant." Mallory's voice carried across the space. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't show. Where is she?" "Protected, for now." Mallory smiled. "Depending entirely on you. What do you want?" "East Harbor, the territory, the docks, the routes, all of it. Walk away, and the girl lives. Fight." He shrugged. "She disappears." Alexander stood very still. Rain dripped from his hair, his jacket. You're asking me to choose between power and one person. Yes. Show me she's alive, then we'll discuss terms. Surprise flickered across Mallory's face. He gestured to one of his men, who pulled out a tablet, tapping the screen. He turned it to show Alexander. A live feed. Lily in a shipping container, bound but alive, holding up a lighter to the camera. Signaling. The timestamp read, 3 minutes ago. Relief and rage warred in Alexander's chest. Which container? The one at the end of the south row. But if you try anything... I'm not trying anything. Alexander's voice was ice. I'm ending this, now. He pulled out his phone and made one call. Now. The docks exploded into light and sound. Police sirens, searchlights, harbor security flooding in from 3 directions. Mallory's men scattered, but Mason's team had every exit blocked. Mallory lunged for Alexander, but Alexander was faster. One punch to the solar plexus, dropping him to his knees. No wasted movement, no unnecessary violence. You made a mistake, Alexander said quietly, standing over him. You made it personal. He left Mallory for the police and ran. The south row felt miles long, a container after container, all identical. But Alexander followed Mason's directions through his earpiece, tracking the camera feed's location. Last one, boss, south corner. Alexander reached it. The lock was heavy-duty, but he had bolt cutters. 3 cuts and the lock fell away. He yanked the door open. Lily sat in the corner, bound and shaking, but her eyes locked on his immediately. Relief so profound it hurt flooded her expression. Alexander. He was across the container in 2 strides, cutting her bindings, pulling her against him. I've got you. You're protected. I'm here. She clung to him, shaking violently. You came. I always will. He pulled off his coat, soaked from rain but warm from his body, and wrapped it around her. Always. He lifted her in his arms and carried her out into the rain, away from the darkness, away from the fear, toward the lights and safety and the future they'd build together. 2 weeks later, the apartment was modest but filled with afternoon light. 1 bedroom, a kitchen just big enough to cook in, windows overlooking the harbor. Lily's name on the lease, her choice. Alexander had offered everything. His penthouse, a house in the suburbs, a fresh start in another city. But Lily chose this. Independence, 3 blocks from Grant's Bar, close enough to feel connected, but far enough to build her own life. Ruby helped her unpack, bringing kitchen supplies and the growing stack of romance novels. Mason installed security that would make Fort Knox jealous, then left his personal number. Nancy Carter from the rescue center visited with news. Maya was in protective care, traumatized but healing, and Alexander came every evening with dinner and conversation and the careful presence that never demanded more than Lily was ready to give. Tonight, he brought Thai food and updates. Mallory's trial starts next month. Prosecutor says they have enough to put him away for life. Lily set down her tea, processing. It's really over. His trafficking network is shut down, assets frozen, operations dismantled. Alexander leaned against her counter, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. East Harbor is cleaner than it's been in years. Because of you. Because of you, he corrected gently. You survived, you testified, you helped us map his entire operation. You're the reason we found Maya and 11 other girls. You're the reason any of this matters. Lily touched the silver necklace. She wore it every day now. I still have nightmares. Wake up thinking I'm back in that container. That's normal. Trauma doesn't vanish because the danger does. He moved to sit beside her on the small sofa, leaving careful space between them. But it gets easier. I do. She looked at him, really looked, at the man who'd protected her when no one else would, who'd offered choice when he could have demanded control, who'd shown her that power could be used for protection instead of harm. Trust you, I mean. Surprise flickered across his face, maybe gratitude. That means more than you know. They sat in comfortable silence, harbor lights glittering outside. Finally, Lily spoke. What happens now, with us? Whatever you want. Careful, gentle. I'm not going anywhere, whether you want me as a friend or... He trailed off, leaving the rest unspoken. Or, she prompted softly. He turned to face her, and for the first time she saw vulnerability in those steel-gray eyes. Or something more, if you think you could, if you ever... Lily took his hand. His fingers closed around hers automatically, warm and steady. I don't know what I can give you yet. I'm still figuring out who I am when I'm not running. Still learning how to be more than a survivor. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. Even if I never, even then. No hesitation. You don't owe me anything. What you've already given, trust, a reason to be better, that's more than enough. Lily felt tears prick her eyes, but good tears this time. She shifted closer, resting her head on his shoulder. Alexander went very still, then slowly wrapped an arm around her. I think, she said quietly, I'd like something more when I'm ready. Then that's what we'll build. His voice roughed with emotion. When you're ready. They stayed like that as evening deepened, city lights reflecting on water, the future uncertain but no longer terrifying. Protected, chosen, home. 3 months later. The community center's grand reopening filled the sidewalk with families. Children played in the new playground. People lined up for the free resource fair. Inside the main hall, a dedication plaque was being unveiled. Elena Grant Memorial Youth Center, in memory of a young woman who believed everyone deserved a second chance. Dedicated by Alexander Grant and Lily Hart. Lily stood beside Alexander as the mayor spoke about hope and community and second chances. She wore a new dress, dark blue, simple, beautiful. Her hair was pulled back, showing Elena's necklace. She looked strong, healthy, happy. Alexander's hand found hers, fingers lacing naturally. No longer a lifeline, just connection, choice, love. After the ceremony, Maya appeared, volunteering in the art therapy room. She and Lily embraced, 2 survivors who'd given each other the chance to live. As evening fell, Alexander and Lily stood on the center's roof, overlooking East Harbor. The neighborhood looked different now, cleaner, safer, full of hope. She would have loved this, Alexander said quietly. Elena would have been so proud. I wish I'd known her. You carry her forward, the way she'd want, believing people can change, that even broken things can become beautiful. Lily turned to face him. I never thought I'd feel this way again, connected, wanting to protect someone, not because I have to, but because losing them would break something that couldn't be fixed. Alexander's breath caught. Lily, I love you. Simple, honest, terrifying. I know it's complicated. I know your world is still messy. But I love you, Alexander, and I needed you to know. He cupped her face gently, thumbs wiping away tears. I love you too. You make me believe I can be more than my worst choices. that I deserve good things, that I can build instead of just protect. Can I kiss you, shy but certain? Please. She rose on her toes. Their lips met, soft, careful, full of promise. The kiss tasted like hope and rain and the future they were building together. From below, children's laughter drifted up, mixed with music and conversation and the sounds of community healing. "What are you thinking?" Alexander asked. "That I'm not running anymore." Lily smiled through tears. "That I found shelter, not in buildings or protection, but in you, in us. And I found purpose." He kissed her forehead gently. "In making sure you never have to run again." They stood together as stars appeared above the harbor, the world spread out below them full of possibility. Not a perfect ending. There would be hard days ahead, healing that took time, scars that might never fully fade. But it was real, honest, hopeful, and for two people who'd survived the worst, that was everything. 1 year later, the wedding was small. Ruby, Mason, Nancy, Maya, and a handful of others who'd become family. They married at sunset on the community center's roof, where Alexander had first said, "I love you." Lily wore Elena's necklace and a dress the color of morning sky. Alexander wore a rare smile and held her hand like she was the most precious thing in existence. "I promise to always be your shelter when storms come," he said during vows. "To choose you every day, to build a life where you feel protected and loved and free." "I promise to trust you with my heart," Lily answered. "To be your partner, not your responsibility. To remind you that you're more than your past, and we're more than what we survived." When they kissed as husband and wife, everyone cheered. And somewhere in the harbor breeze, it felt like Elena was there too, smiling at what they'd built from broken pieces. After the celebration, they walked to their new home, not the penthouse, not the small apartment, but a house they'd chosen together. One with a garden Lily was learning to tend, and a library Alexander was filling with books she loved. "Happy?" he asked as they stood on the porch. "More than I thought possible." Lily looked up at her husband, her partner, her home. "You?" "More than I deserve." He pulled her close. "But I'll spend my life earning it anyway." They went inside together, closing the door on the past and opening it to a future built on love, trust, and the kind of courage that chooses hope when hope seems impossible. Sometimes the most inspirational stories are about broken people, finding each other and choosing to heal together. Sometimes love isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up, day after day, and saying, "You matter." Sometimes shelter isn't a place. It's a person who refuses to let you face the storm alone. And sometimes the girl who had nothing becomes the woman who has everything. Not because someone gave it to her, but because someone believed she was worth protecting. That's the kind of romance that transforms lives. That's the kind of mafia boss who learns that real power isn't control, it's the courage to love. That's Lily and Alexander's story. Thank you for staying with Lily and Alexander's journey from darkness to light. If this story touched your heart, reminded you that healing is possible, or gave you hope that love can be found even after trauma, please like this video, subscribe for more motivational and inspirational romance stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story matters too. Until next time, may you find your own shelter in the storm.